Hello students. So today in this video I'm going to discuss about chapter number 6, changes around us. So students, there are different types of changes around us that you can see in daily life, like bursting of balloon, growing of plant, melting of ice, burning of paper, growing of a child into an adult. So students, all these changes can be broadly categorized as reversible change and irreversible change. So now we will discuss about reversible changes and irreversible changes. So students, reversible changes are the changes that can be reversed are called reversible changes. For example, melting of ice, water evaporating and condensation, boiling of water, stretching of rubber band, etc. Now students, irreversible changes are the changes that cannot be reversed are called irreversible changes. So students, there are a large number of irreversible changes that take place around us. For example, ripening of fruits is an irreversible change because it is not possible to get back the raw fruits from ripened or matured ones. Another example of irreversible change is cooking of food. Cooking of food is an irreversible change because we cannot get back the ingredients in their original form after cooking them. Now students, the changes around us can also be classified as physical changes and chemical changes. So students, physical changes are the changes in which no new substances are formed. So students, these changes do not result in the production of new substances also. Now, examples of physical changes are powdering of sugar, slicing, grating fruits and vegetables, etc. Students, all these physical changes as the original substance remains same but in a new form. And one more thing students, all the reversible changes and some irreversible changes are physical changes. For example, melting of butter is reversible and also a physical change, as there is only state of a substance changes from solid to liquid. Also, breaking of glass is irreversible change and also a physical change, as glass cannot be reconstituted to its original shape. Now students, the changes in which new substances are formed are called chemical changes. In a chemical change, the new substances formed are very different and they have entirely different properties. Now examples of chemical changes are like burning of LPG, burning of natural gas, burning of wood, cooking of food, rusting of iron and respiration. Now students, chemical changes are always irreversible in nature and thus they are permanent changes. For example, curdling of milk results in the formation of new substance. Students, burning of candle has both changes like physical changes and chemical changes. This is because you must have observed that size of lit candle keeps on decreasing with time as molten wax vaporizes from candle flame on heating. The vapor of wax burned to produce new substance. Thus, melting of candle wax is an example of physical change because wax after burning solidifies on cooling, while burning of candle is a chemical change. Now students, the next topic of the chapter is expansion and contraction of materials. So students, some materials expand on heating and some contract on cooling. Now students, when an object is heated, its size increases. This property of increase in size is called expansion. Now students, the amount of expansion differs in solid, liquid and gases. Gases expand the most, whereas solid expand the least. Now here, one by one, we are going to discuss about expansion in solids, liquids and gases. Now the first one is expansion in solids. So students, as you can see, railway tracks consist of two parallel metal rails joined together. But a small gaps in there is called expansion gaps, and these are left because that rails are expanded during the hot weather. So to avoid the damage, these gaps are left out. Now students, expansion in liquids. So students, mercury is a liquid which expands on heating. This you can see if you take a thermometer and dip it in a heated water. So then you observe that mercury level rises up due to the expansion of mercury. Now the next is expansion in gases. So students, if you keep an inflated balloon in the sun for some time, it will grow in sizes as the air inside it expands on heating from the surrounding. Now students, what is contraction? So cooling does the opposite of heating. Cooling causes a material to contract. Now students, solids contract the least, whereas gases contract the most. Now we will discuss one by one the contraction in solids, liquids and gases. Now students, contraction in solids. So if you hold a very hot glass under cold water, it cracks. This is because the outer surface of the glass comes in direct contact with the cold water and it gets contracted more compared to the inner surface. That's why it got break. Now contraction in liquids. So if we put mercury, which means thermometer, in the cold water, then its mercury level goes below. This is due to the contraction. Now contraction in gases. So if an inflated balloon is tied at the mouth of a bottle and the bottle is placed in a ice cold water, then what will happen? So students, the balloon will shrink in size as the air inside the balloon contracts on cooling. Now here it is given some practical uses of expansion and contraction. So students, the iron blades of agricultural tools such as spade, pickaxe have a ring into which the wooden handle is to be fitted. So as the handle is slightly thicker than the ring is heated, due to which it expands before fixing it on the handle, which upon cooling the ring contracts by creating the tight fit on the handle. So this is the practical use of contraction. Now the practical use of expansion I have already told you before. Like railway tracks have small gaps between them. So these small gaps are left between the rails as there is an expansion of rails in the hot weather. So this is the practical use of expansion. Students, here it is given the summing up of the chapter. So we will quickly go through with this for the better understanding of the chapter. Now initially we have read about changes around us. So it can be of four types. Reversible changes means a change that can be reversed. For example, melting of ice cream. The second one is irreversible changes, which means a changes that cannot be reversed. For example, cooking of food. The third one is physical changes, a change in which no new substance is formed. For example, breaking of glass. And the fourth one is chemical change. So it is a change in which a new substance is formed. For example, in rusting of iron, rust is a new substance. Now students, expansion and contraction of metals. So this In this, practical uses are in iron tools, in expansion gaps of metal bridges and railway tracks, and in mercury thermometer. Now students, this is it in this chapter. I hope you get the chapter. Thank you.